Once you actually understand why people are buying from you, if you know what challenge they're actually facing,
you need to put in the work, put in the effort, and actually get data that no one else is getting, and that will then drive those results.
Personalization, to me, it really is about, showing the right message to people at the right time.
You just think that you can pump out 30 blogs a week and that's going to get you results. It's not. What will end up actually happening is people will lose trust because all you're doing is being lazy.
But if you're not also obsessing about your messaging and customers, then you're going to be left behind.
Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of Pulse. Today we're joined by Talia Wolf, who is an expert in all things conversion rate optimization and user experience, and to do with connecting the emotional dots and making sure that your customer journeys convert. Talia is the CEO and founder of GetUplift, and she's delivered training to some of the world's leading organizations around CRO and UX. So we're excited to have you on the podcast today, Talia. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here and I'm excited for our conversation.
No worries at all. Well, let's dive straight in anyway and give the listeners and myself a bit more background about you and your journey so far to where you are today.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you a bit about myself then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So I run GetUplift, as you mentioned, which is a conversion optimization agency, and our focus is on really emotional buying journeys. And we focus mainly on B2B. So we do a lot of optimization for e-commerce, but our main kind of bread and butter is B2B companies, really helping them understand why people buy from them, and creating better customer experiences through that and experimentation. I've been doing conversion optimization for, I think, 12 or 13 years now, which is crazy.
Awesome.
Kind of makes you feel old. This is my second company. I previously had another CRO agency. This is GetUplift. I've had this one for 7 years, and I teach our methodology all over the world. And really, this comes from me trying conversion optimization 12, 13 years ago, not really succeeding, not really know how to go about it, which I'm sure we can touch on, the mistakes that I made back then and mistakes that companies are still making, actually. And just creating a new process for optimization, because I just realized that if I really want to increase conversions and drive meaningful results for our clients, and really just run better A/B tests, we need to run more meaningful experiments. And for that, that's not going to be blue button versus red button. It's going to have to be something a lot more profound. And that's where the emotional targeting methodology came in. Other than that, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids and a dog. That's me.
Yeah, good. No, I appreciate that. It's an interesting insight, and I've seen a bit of your content, and I think kind of our thinking lines up. Obviously you're more niche and focused in that area, but definitely I agree with your points around that. And I want to unpack a bit more around, for those that may not be familiar with it, that are listening, what it means when we're looking at a landing page or a website, or even positioning as a brand, right? And I know this is one of the things you mentioned around, it's not just your homepage, right? It applies to everything. And I suppose to someone that is just starting on this journey, what is really targeting those emotional points in a customer journey look like, and especially for those B2B businesses?
Yeah, so if we take a step back, ultimately every business has its own goals. So if you're a B2B company, maybe it's an order, maybe your goal is to get more free trial signups. Maybe it's to get new subscribers, demo requests. If you're in e-commerce, then maybe you're just trying to get sales. So the whole goal of experimentation and A/B testing, it really is the science of looking at your page, let's say a product page, your pricing page, a landing page, and saying, okay, this isn't working well. How can I make it better and increase conversions? How can I get more demo requests? And mostly what you see is the approach of changing elements on the page. So you'll change a call to action button, you'll reduce a form field, you'll change a headline on the page. And this is out of, you go on to Google and you're Googling for like best practices for pricing pages and, you're looking at your competitors and you're looking at what gurus and all sorts of whatever people are saying, and you're kind of copying them because you don't really know what to do. And that's where I started years and years and years ago, just trying to optimize landing pages for our clients and really saying that maybe, sometimes it increases conversions, but it's not really driving meaningful results like I want it to. And that's when I understood if I really want to increase conversions, I have to understand how people make buying decisions. So if someone is now purchasing a B2B product, how do they make a decision? What actually triggers them to say, okay, this is the company I'm going to trial. This is the company I'm going to use. And that's kind of where we went back to the drawing board and built a strategy and a methodology for uncovering that, of what is the buyer decision, what is the emotional kind of roller coaster that people go through. And really, emotions have everything to do with the experience. Every decision that we make in life is based on emotion, whether we want to believe it or not. So a lot of that really is uncovering those emotions, understanding the real intent. And just to summarize that, once you actually understand why people are buying from you, if you know what challenge they're actually facing, the pains that are really getting to them, the roadblocks that are preventing them from converting, and how they want to feel after finding a solution, and the results that they're looking for, it's so much easier to then look at a page and say, oh, you know what? We're saying the wrong things. The content doesn't make sense. We're using the wrong images. The colors are off. And then you can actually make more meaningful changes to your pages and A/B test them. And that's basically what we do.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree. It's something similar, we follow in building out these customer experiences or building products, whether it's websites or, applications, software, etc. It's the same principles, right? You can go ahead and build a product that you think your customers want. You can go ahead and build something that you think the end users want. But if you don't actually truly understand what they want, what they're looking for, what they want to use, then you're going to end up creating something that, again, you think it's going to work, but it ends up failing. It's the same thing here with what you're talking about. And I find it very, very interesting, where a lot of what we see is people talking about themselves, right? We, us, number one, all of this kind of thing, where it's like, well, when you step back and if you put yourselves, like, especially it's hard as a, having an emotional connection yourself to the business that you're trying to sell, if that makes sense, or something like that there. If you're the owner or you're a stakeholder, a manager, etc., if you put yourselves in the shoes of a consumer, right, and you go, when I go looking for something, right, from something else, if I go to someone's website and they're like, number one this and number one that, and we us and we this, our, what do I feel? If you don't feel that connect, right, and that's where it's, I suppose, a lot of people struggle with getting out of their own interest and out of their own shoes into their customers' shoes. I suppose, what are some ways that you would recommend that they do that? Obviously through surveys and speaking to their customers, but how do they approach that, especially for someone that's never done it, or a business that's never done it?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you'll see in the B2B industry is that, and I talk about this quite a bit, is that we don't really know what to say. And then the main focus is the solution that we're selling. It's a product, it's the features, it's a technology. Everyone's saying they're powered by AI. We have an internal joke at GetUplift that we're now using AI a ton for our own stuff. And I'm like, can we just write powered by AI, please, on our website? Because it's, people don't know what to rate. So we talk about ourselves. And the way out of that is what you were hinting at, which is really talking to your customers and actually understanding the underlying emotions. Now, when you think about surveys for your customers, a lot of the time, especially in B2B, the surveys are around, why did you choose us? Who were you considering other than us? What almost stopped you from, signing up? Or what is the feature that you love the most? When we're thinking about customer surveys and then also customer interviews, we're actually looking for sentiment, which means that we're changing the questions that we're asking. And instead of asking questions about the product, its pricing, and its features, we're actually asking about the pains that people experience. So, for example, we'll ask, what have you been doing so far to solve this problem? What have you tried that isn't working for you? And a lot of the times we think, oh, they're just going to say a competitor, but many times it's just, well, I haven't been trying to solve this, or I've just been sitting with this, or I'm using a spreadsheet. I am doing it myself. And there's a lot of different ways to uncover, like, okay, your real competitor isn't who you think it is. It's people who are, doing it themselves. It's people who have hired a VA to do something, or they're just not dealing with it. Other questions are around, what was going on in your day or your life that made you search for this solution? And it's not, why did you buy from us? It's, take me back to that moment that made you search for this solution and what was going on, what happened. And that helps you find like the trigger of what was happening. Oh, I was walking down the street. Oh, I was having a conversation with someone. Oh, it happened again. And I was so frustrated. So we're looking for those kind of sentiments. And we're asking the questions that really kind of unpack what people were going through. The sentence, and this is kind of famous, people don't buy products, they buy better versions of themselves. And that's something that it really resonates with me, because we're not, ultimately, it's not that your features and pricing and technology don't matter. Of course they matter. And of course your integrations matter. And of course the actual solution that you've built matters. But when someone lands on your website, whether if it's on your homepage or your pricing page or a landing page, if they can't immediately see what problem you're solving, how you're solving it, and why they should care, what's in it for them, they're going to jump to the next tab. So I really, the first step is customer surveys. The first step is interviewing your customers. It's just talking to them and figuring out, what was going on in their life and what has your solution or product, what pain has it lessened for them? What has it eliminated for them? And I think that's where you get started.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't agree more. I'm a big proponent of that for myself internally, just with every project that we're working on as well. And the way I kind of look at it, which is what you've put, but in a different ways, stop looking for superficial data and superficial research and just surface level information, right? You can go and ask generic questions that everyone else does, and you're going to find out that generic data. And as you said, you ask those generic questions, you're not going to get anything that's going to be insightful or actually help you make decisions that are going to drive results. You need to put in the work, put in the effort, and actually get data that no one else is getting, and that will then drive those results and give you that information that you need to properly tailor that messaging or the product or whatever it is to what users or customers are looking for. And I think that is where most people go wrong. I know it's something that you talk about often as well, but when we talk to businesses, most of them have actually never even done it. Not that they only do it once a year or they do it, whatever. They haven't even done it at a surface level, at anything. It's just like, oh no, we know that, our sales, people talk to them all the time, so we know what they want. Or say, well, no, that's not, that's not what's needed, right? So I suppose, how do you approach that, especially with pricing? And this is something I want to get into, is as you get deeper and more connected with that messaging, in your experience, does pricing become less relevant? And what I mean by this is, are people willing to pay more essentially for a brand, that is they feel is deeply connected to them.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've watched hundreds of user recordings of people, B2B buyers, making a purchase or signing up on B2B. And what we found is that when someone lands on a B2B website, they almost immediately gravitate to the pricing page. But what we've understood from that is that it's not that they are now analyzing every single feature and they're looking at every single integration. They're actually just making sure that as they kind of look at a bunch of competitors, and I'll give you an example. Let's say you're trying to choose a PM software. So you are debating between Monday.com, ClickUp, and Asana. What you will do, what most people do, is they land on the homepage and they go to the pricing page and they're looking at pricing. But the goal isn't to now analyze every single plan. It's more to just understand, like, is this more or less the same? Or is there a huge difference? And then they'll kind of go back to the homepage and they'll go to other pages and they'll kind of go down the rabbit hole. The reason I say this is because pricing isn't that important. And it's not that, it isn't important at all, because obviously if you are very different than your competitors, then of course there's a lot to do there. There's a lot of a lot of work there. But, a recent study by Think with Google actually uncovered that B2B buyers are eight times more likely to buy a product, even if it's more expensive, if they can see a personal value to it, which means if they can see that, they may get a raise, they may be highly rated within their company, or maybe they'll get a better job opportunity, or maybe, they'd actually get a promotion. So anything to do with their own advancement in their career, or how people will think about them, how they will think about themselves, self-image and social image, people are more likely to spend more money on products like that. And that tells you immediately that when you see value in a product, when you can see clearly that it understands you, it's solving a specific problem that you really care about, and it is there for you, the pricing isn't as important as we think it is. And it's not to say that pricing isn't important to B2B. We do a ton of strategy work on pricing and testing pricing for B2B, but ultimately, it's more about people understanding the value of each plan, understanding the value of your product, understanding what it does for them, and the change it can bring into their lives, going back again to, buying better versions of yourself. So science and data and research shows that people will spend more money if they can see a personal benefit in it, even in B2B. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing with the data we've seen in studies, etc., is that the players are willing to pay premium, willing to pay more for better experiences, basically. And I wanted to get into that a bit more around, you've obviously spoken a fair bit around what seems to be SaaS that we're talking about with the B2B SaaS side of things, and people typically heading to price page. It could be service-based as well, but have you got any advice or around your B2B businesses that might be wholesaling or distributing, et cetera, as well, that may be selling products or consumables, et cetera, and they're trying to present solutions. It's more product-based, where they may have a range of 10,000 SKUs and that kind of thing, but where as a brand they can still position themselves where they are that solutions-based provider, but their copy and messaging and everything is designed around the individual that they're actually talking to, rather than we, us, et cetera.
I think, there are quite a few brands out there that are trying to make a difference. When you look at the landscape of even the project management solution industry, which we were just talking about, ultimately, all the products are the same, right? I mean, they all have the same features. They all have some technology. I mean, one is a little better here, or maybe they have a bit of a better UX, but ultimately the products are the same, and there's 20 of them. We had the privilege of working with Teamwork, and Teamwork is a brilliant project management solution that competes with companies like ClickUp and Monday.com, Asana, Reich. One of the things that I found that was really cool was that we got to work with them on, appealing to the right ICP. So yes, in the past, they would say very similar things to everyone else, which, everyone's all saying it, like the all-in-one solution for project management solution. But once we started focusing a lot more on their specific ideal customer profiles, we got much better results. So for teamwork specifically, their ideal customers are actually agencies and service providers. So if you are a service provider, you have an agency, you can run your entire retainer and all your client work within Teamwork. Could you probably kind of leverage other products to do that? Maybe, but Teamwork has actually built their project management solution for that and for those people like myself and like yourself. So I think what was cool is that as we started testing more messaging around, this is for client work, if you're running retainers, if you want to know profitability, if you want to finally understand what people are doing in the company and, how people, if they have too much work or too less work or how long everything takes them to do, and you're trying to run an actual business and you want to engage your clients and you want to work with them, Teamwork is the right solution for you. So they could go, and they had in the past, for the more, broad messaging, which a lot of these companies do. It's an all-in-one solution. It's your project management solution. It's for product managers. It's for project managers. They could do that, but actually signaling themselves into like, this is who we're speaking to. This is the problem that we're solving. We know that agencies have a really hard time understanding the profitability. They have a hard time understanding billable hours. They have a hard time understanding who's working on what. Everything on the website changed, from the screenshots they were using of the product, to the copy, the images, the emails they were sending. Everything changed, and that made a huge difference. So I think, that is a really good example of just leveraging the right kind of messaging that we worked on with them to say, hey, yes, anyone can use us, but if you're an agency or if you do client work, this is the place for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so important. I think it comes back to what we were discussing earlier, and something that we discuss with clients as well a lot is that it's not just about your homepage, as we discussed earlier. I think it's your positioning as a company, right? Everything, it touches everything. If your homepage talks to your ICP really well, but the rest of it doesn't, you're going to drop off there as well. And it's not just as part of that, it's not just about, you did touch off on it a bit earlier as well, like moving a button or changing a color or adding in even another section or another CTA or et cetera, et cetera. Those things are important in their own place, but it's a combination of all of these things. And as a brand, more importantly than ever, that messaging, and this is what I want to get your thoughts on a little bit more as well, and have a bit more of a discussion around the messaging kind of versus the design, right? Or, the user experience, which obviously part of that is the copy. But when we say, if you're going to pick one or the other, personally, I'd be saying your messaging is first, right? If that is wrong, no matter what else you do, you're going to have challenges. What do you think on that?
Yeah, so I'm like a huge advocate of copy first and then wireframe, or copy first and then design. Almost every single company we work with, when we start working with them, first do a beautiful design that's like super modern, what the designers think is going to look cool, and then they have like all the lorem ipsum text everywhere, and you switch it out. So what happens is the copy kind of has to fill in the blanks. And one of the first things that we work on immediately is, hey, this is not the way to do it. Let's write the page. Let's write the content. Let's build a wireframe, and the designers can then design around it, because design has to amplify your message. So every single visual that you use, the colors that you're using, the images, the screenshots, everything has to actually amplify the message itself. If you're talking about a specific feature and how it's going to solve a particular problem for you, I want to see that in the image. If you're talking about the, solution as a whole. I want to see an image that represents that. So it's not about just sticking in beautiful, screenshots of your product and then trying to pepper in some copy. And I think that is super important. I do want to say, we have a course called Emotion Sells, and it teaches this methodology. And I just had our live coaching call yesterday, which is like, we have this monthly live coaching call and everyone can come on and like present the stuff they're doing, and I give feedback and stuff. And one of the people that came on had recently wrote beautiful copy, and it was really cool. It's like it's the service which provides you with the consultants for jet lag. If you are a person that travels a lot, then they will provide you with a consultant that will personalize something for you to get rid of jet lag, so it doesn't ruin your trips and your travel. And he presented this to us, and he showed us the landing pages, and he's like, I'm A/B testing this and I'm A/B testing that. And the copy was great, but it was like pure HTML and there was no design, which meant it was impossible to read the copy. I had no idea when a call to action was going to come. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, when I was supposed to read, when I was supposed to stop and pause. So I think that, it's one of the things that we did is I kind of built like a scrappy landing page for him where I just took the copy and put it into I think it was Lead Pages, into like, here's how you would do this. And immediately you can see the difference of how important it is. Like, you have good copy, but you have to pair it with good design. And once we started adding in those visuals, that made a big difference. So it's not that one is more important than the other. It's just one can't live without the other. So really, step one, write your copy, write the messaging, do that. Then step two, design around it to make sure that you can easily read it. There's content hierarchy, where the CTAs are, and you're adding visuals and images that really do support and amplify your message.
Yeah, no, interesting, and something that we have struggled with clients in the past as well is trying to get that content sorted before going into wireframing and stuff as well. And it's something that is, I agree, if it can be done, it's so much better because it gives you the opportunity then to present it properly, as you say, amplify that content, and present it to the customer or the end user, whoever it is, properly, and do the copy or content justice, right? And that's so important. And I totally agree with you. You can't have one without the other. But ideally, in an ideal situation, you have that copy done because that is the framework for the design. Right? It's a framework that then we can utilize that. And I'm sure, as you go through wireframing and designing it, there might be little tweaks here and there, even additions here and there to the copy, but you've got the framework that you can work off, right? The bulk of it is done. You know what needs to happen, and it gives you that opportunity. I suppose moving on, how do you get, or what's your opinion on and your thoughts on kind of delivering, I suppose, personalization at scale, right? So we're talking here kind of more generalization where we are talking about ICPs, et cetera, as well, but how do we bring these same kind of philosophies to where we're delivering these personalized experiences at scale? And do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you call personalization, right? Because I think what people thought in the past personalization meant, it was like, good morning if you're coming in from Australia, and good night or good evening if you're like in Europe. But personalization to me is not just about serving, showing the right time, or if you're in e-commerce, like you're serving the right currency. It really is about, showing the right message to people at the right time. There is a lot of great technology out there. And I think one of the things that you just need to remember is that, like every single thing, and it's similar to AI, because technology is evolving and new things are coming in and everyone's running to use new technology. I think you need to think about how and why you're using technology, because a lot of the times we use technology as a crutch. We don't want to do the profound foundational work of surveying our customers, interviewing people, doing a real competitor analysis, really kind of diving into the qualitative research. And it's easier for us to try and use technology. Oh, AI will solve that for me, or personalization will solve that for me. And I think, it started so many years ago, when even Facebook had these tools where you could automatically serve like personalized like ads, and they would be so terrible, so spammy, but also like BS, like really not good, like really, really technical. So I think if you're using technology as a shortcut, if you're using technology as like, oh, it will do the foundational work for me, then you're doing it wrong. But if you've done the foundational work, and you've done surveys and customer reviews, and you have analyzed, reviews online and social listening, and you've interviewed people, and you now have a profound understanding of who you're speaking to, the real pain they're experiencing, how they feel right now, how they want to feel, all that stuff, you can then feed that into technology. You can feed that into personalization tools. You can feed that into AI. And that would be amazing, because then you're actually leveraging it in the right way. It's the difference between people who go into ChatGPT and say, I'm a marketer, I'm speaking to B2B founders, write an email for me that promotes my business, versus I'm speaking to VPs of growth who are this is their biggest challenge right now. They have tried 1, 2, 3, and 4. They visited these websites. They haven't liked them. Yeah. When you're feeding in the right information to technology, it works really well. But most of the times, oftentimes, a lot of marketers just kind of skip that step and just try and use technology in order to, skip the foundational stuff. So it's not that I don't think personalization doesn't work. It works, but it needs to go beyond the like, good morning, or, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And about the AI side of things, well, firstly on the personalization, I agree. People like good morning, time zones, currencies, that isn't enough. You need to be capturing data, having a data warehouse of individuals where the preferences basically of each individual and where they sit, so you can deliver personalized experiences, whether that, if you're an e-commerce brand, whether that's recommending products that they would genuinely be interested in, or providing relevant updates or things like that there, or just you need to have the data on the individual, and need to have their preferences, and they obviously need to be able to share that with you, but so you can deliver that. And then getting into the AI side of things and future technology, I totally agree. I was actually just having a conversation about it before we jumped on here to do the podcast about specifically AI, and my whole thing on it is, if you are following bad practices, or if you are not putting in the work now, it's only going to accelerate and help you do more of that, which is actually going to help you be worse, if that makes any sense, right? So if you just think that you can pump out 30 blogs a week and that's going to get you results, it's not. What will end up actually happening is people will lose trust, because all you're doing is being lazy and not putting in the work, and they don't trust you anymore, right? And so totally agree with that. And I want to get your thoughts on it. Kind of segues into the next section very well, as to AI and the future of all of that, right? A lot of people are saying, even with our industry, you're obviously a similar space as well, but in all sorts of industries, such as marketing, etc. Oh, is AI coming for jobs, etc. And it's going to be able to replace these people, etc. It's so at the moment far from that, if that makes sense. And there's still this fundamental requirement that I feel personally will never ever go away, which is being human, right? And understanding intuition, and understanding, like we've talked about, this data that is not superficial, having an emotional connection, and actually being able to foresee the needs of an individual. So would like to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, AI is a thing. And I think we recently working with one of our clients, and, they too added powered by AI to their homepage. And we were just talking about how they hadn't seen any results from it. And the reason they hadn't seen any results from it was because everyone's saying it, and it's become, it's just nothing. It's like, It's cliche. And also, that doesn't tell me anything. Powered by AI is like saying the one and all platform to do X. If you're not telling me why I need AI in your specific product, like how is this saving me time? Oh, you're going to analyze through AI, you're going to analyze all the support tickets for tech that we're getting. And then you're going to, I don't know, recommend how to reply, or you're going to feed me some really cool, like, unless you're saying we're powered by AI and here's why you should care and here how this is going to save you 70 hours a month, or here's how this will save hiring 5 customer care specialists because you're going to have this. Like, if you're not telling me why I should care and what the result is for me, I don't care. So I think, yeah, like, ultimately it's a buzzword. Machine learning was a buzzword. Personalization is a buzzword. And this isn't to say that technology isn't important. It is super important. And I just mentioned, like, we're using a ton of AI at GetUplift. We're just not talking about it because we're using it for our own processes. We're feeding in everything that we're doing into it to better, create better processes within our company. So, like, here's everything that we've done, and creating templates for ourselves and trying to kind of save time for ourselves and thinking about where we can spend more time. So I think, I don't know how far, how quickly it's going to replace all of us. I do think there's a lot of problems that we should be addressing with AI specifically. And my concern is mostly, the people that are using AI more than AI itself. It's like every technology. It depends on who actually uses it, or like every Avenger movie where you're like, okay, this is a great thing. And, Iron Man could use it, or Ultron, the robot, could use it. And like, how do you actually make sure it's being used for good? Sorry, I'm just geeking out on comics.
No.
But I do think AI is, it's wonderful. It's great. If you don't, as you mentioned, and as we've said before, you don't have the foundational stuff going on behind, it's not going to be any good. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And totally agree. 100%. And use it where it's good. And you can tell the people that have got the grasp on it properly, right? As in, for people that know how to use it, prompt engineering, basically, that know how to use AI and how to use it effectively without it being cringy and cliche and just producing rubbish, right? Those people are way more productive, highly effective. For the people that don't know how to use it, and on the other end are also lazy, and think that it's a replacement for them, or basically, I can just do this in 2 minutes and take me 2 hours. You can tell, right? Whether it's an email, it's a document, whatever it is, you can tell that someone hasn't put the effort in. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it. That's not the point. It's just totally that you need to do the groundwork for it to be effective, right? And even if it's helping you as an idea buddy or whatever else, you have to give it the context, and the way I describe the context and the data for it to make, or to be of relevant help to you. And I totally agree with it. And we've had some of our team and myself, we were at a conference a couple of weeks ago and discussing with a startup. And one of our team was discussing with a startup, an AI, supposed to be AI startup. One of our engineers actually, and just was digging a bit deeper as to, okay, how are you utilizing it? What are you utilizing, models, etc. And it turned out the facts that they had no AI in their product, right? And it's like, from an engineering perspective, he was just trying to find out kind of, how they were doing things, etc. And it's just, it should be a warning to people that a lot of products that are claiming to be AI are glorified products built on top of something like ChatGPT through their API, basically, or don't have AI in it at all, or it's just not useful. Now, to be clear in me saying that, it's not that it's not useful at all. It's just it needs to be applied right, and it needs to be done correctly. And this is where the whole thing about understanding what users want and how they want it, and our messaging that we've been talking about, is that just slapping AI in your product, on your website, whatever else, is not going to increase conversions. It's not going to help you get better retention and that kind of thing. And even if it did in the short term, it's only going to be short term, right? Because people are going to find out that, well, this isn't actually what, you know what I mean? It's not actually helping me. So then you see a drop off. So find that fascinating. On the user experience side, how do you see with the conversions there and personalization? Understand, we don't want to focus on the cliches there too much, but essentially where we genuine personalization, especially with like things like augmented reality, where businesses or brands have got products that we can bring more of a personalized experience. And let's say, for example, you've got flooring, and you basically in your home, you can augment that flooring straight into your own environment. How are you seeing that in the future as well, changing kind of conversion rates? Because suddenly what was a product that may have had great messaging, right, may have had great copy, everything else may have been perfect, we're taking it to the next level where it's like, okay, now this is in your environment. Even, that is what I would class, when we were talking about earlier, kind of that personalization at that next level, not just good morning or here's your currency kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I actually think, specifically with the example you just gave, is that it's not, instead of messaging, it's an additional tool that helps you personalize what you're actually, what you're buying. And I think for flooring, for example, I'm in the middle of a huge renovation on our house, and it's been horrendous. And one of the things that I have been enjoying is being able to go like, okay, we're now doing parquet floor in the house, cool, let's see what this would look like, let's see what this would look like. It helps me. But the reason I went to this specific flooring company, like this parquet floor company, originally was because, two of my best friends had used them before. Then I went to their website and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me look at pricing. Let me look at who these people are. Let me look at their customer service. Let me better understand who they're, what do they do this for? Is it more on the cheaper level? Is it a higher level? Who are they actually catering to? Is this more offices? Is this more home? I read more about the company. And when I was positive that, you know what, I think this may be the right company for me, before actually contacting them, I was like, actually, let me play around with this. Let me see if I like this. You spend more time on the website, and then you can say, okay, cool. You know what? I'm going to contact them and I'm going to get a quote from them, and let's take it to the next step. I think where these things fail is when you don't have everything supporting it. If you come to the website and the only thing that you have is this tool, and I have quite a few examples even from clients of ours. We have quite a big client that has a tool that it has two tools. One of them, when you go to the website, you get a lot of information and it comes as a platform, and you would want to really, go through the content, read it through, and then start using the tool. That works really well. The other website actually is just the tool. There's nothing else. So if you want to do something really quickly, you just go in there, you put in your link, and it creates whatever it creates. I'm not going to get into the information. But the difference is insane, because the people that actually end up on the first website, subscribing, paying, becoming, using the whole platform with all its different tools, the value there is so much higher. The customers they have a higher lifetime value. Versus the people that are just going in there to create something, or like your example, okay, came to a website, I just want to see what this type of, parquet floor is going to look like in my house, doesn't necessarily mean they will convert with you. They're just using that tool to get one thing done, one job done, and then they're leaving. So if you don't have everything supporting around it, you're not really going to get the results that you want.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. And obviously there's a differentiation there as well between, this applies to everyone in all industries, where it specifically, if you've got exclusivity or it is your product, if that makes sense, etc. I'm more saying from a brand on that front is where you say the whole thing comes back to, how do we just make it as easy as possible? How do we make the customer journey as easy as possible? Whether that's copy, whether that's our digital customer experience, whether that's our tools, whatever it is, right? Our emails, videos, training series, content. How do we just educate? How do we make things as easy as possible? And how do we ensure that customer journey is is as good as it possibly can be on that front as well. So yeah, I really appreciate the conversation we've had. I think we've covered off a lot of good points. Definitely not the end of the conversation. There's absolutely more to explore. We could spend all day talking about these things. That there's so much to explore. But we've got a finale segment that I do with each guest, where I just ask 3 questions that we go through, and I'd like to get your responses on that. So the first one is, what's one thing you believe businesses are not paying enough attention to right now that will be critical in the next 5 years?
I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but really, ultimately, it's customer research. I do think messaging is key. So with the development of AI, with all the technology that's coming, with the fact that, people are seeing 40,000 messages a day and ads, and people are trying to grab your attention, messaging will be the key. And if you're not focused on that, you can be focused on technology, which is great. But if you're not also obsessing about your messaging and customers, then you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, interesting, and I couldn't agree more. Just in a thing that the business does, your positioning and messaging, absolutely. The next one is, what legacy do you want to leave in your industry? How do you hope your work will influence or shape the future?
That's a good question. I guess for me, it's on a few levels. One is that obviously the more I speak on stages and the more I coach and teach, the more I want people to understand the importance of human, connection, and just keeping the web a safe place and helping people solve their problems. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see companies do these days is they forget that people are coming to their website because they have a problem. They have a challenge that needs solving. And it's not about you. It's about the problem that they're facing. So if anything, I do hope that I manage to change that one step at a time, and more people start thinking about that. On the other hand, I'm also, the other level is just on the level of entrepreneurship and on the level of just running businesses in a way that's more human and is just thinking more about, like, how do you balance everything? That is, okay, yes, you want to make money, you want to have a great product, but you also want to put some good into the world. Conversion optimization isn't about, tricking people into buying something. It's not about using dark patterns to, like, get more people to convert. It's about creating a better customer experience. So that's kind of what I'm hoping.
Awesome, definitely. And the final one is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self at the start of your career?
Whew. Well, I mean, there's a few things there. I think one would be, you can definitely do this, because I started my own company I wanted to start a company way before that I actually did. So that would definitely be a big one. Like, just trust you can do this and just go for it and don't wait.
Okay, awesome. I think that brilliant answers there, and I've really appreciated our conversation. So thanks for coming on, Talia. A lot of great insights for our listeners, and a lot of new learnings for me as well, that we can take away. So I appreciate that. And for anyone listening, you can head over to our learning center at intuji.com. Check us out there for more resources, and we'd love to hear from anyone with any guest suggestions or any thoughts or suggestions for future episodes. So keep in touch and let us know what you think. And once again, thank you, Talia, and no doubt we'll keep in touch and have you on again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.